Hey guys, Mike here. So boy, today was all about Apple, right? And their event. And we're actually going to go into what their stock did, but more importantly, what it did to other stocks. Because it actually affected the other stocks way more than it affected its own stock. But there is something it did today, which I think we all saw coming and everything. And we'll go into that. We'll also talk about when we were talking about the general Treasury account and them refilling it and everybody creating these fear-mongering videos like the stock market's going to drop 30%. And here, I'm just going to not take 30 minutes to talk about it. I'm going to take a few minutes there and talk about it and show you a few things of why, yes, is it going to affect liquidity? Probably so, but not in the way a lot of people think it's going to affect and everything. And then, we'll go into charts, but then I'll show you some of the ends I actually built for my son and everything. I'm pretty proud of myself because I'm not, I never had a dad. I didn't have everybody teach me how to build stuff with wood, but I enjoyed doing it. So I'll show you something I built for him that he shows interest in. So, of course, I'm trying to be an encouraging dad, right? So, but going into Apple, right? They're famous for selling off on these big events and everything. But what did it do? Set an all-time new high right there. I mean, and all the face of everything, there is Apple, right? And so when you see that, obviously you see it sold off really hard once it set that all-time new high and everything, and their event started, and they started rolling out all the new stuff, which I'm going to show you and everything. But when you look, obviously you go on the hourly, bearish MACD cross, you go to the daily, it was overbought. We talked about that, so it's not a surprise for it to drop and everything. It does have all those gaps right below. But again, it has nice support, sitting around 175, 75-ish, which is the gap it needs to fill if it wants to go there. And that trend line that it's been bouncing off of, it seems like forever. And so that will be a nice pullback, a nice healthy pullback, that is. So, of course, they rolled out their event, and, of course, the talk of the town was these new goggles they got right here. The Apple Vision Pro, where you'll get to do everything by using just your hands and eyes and head movements and stuff. And they also got a 15-inch MacBook Pro, I believe it is, which I'll probably be buying one of those. Let me know if you saw any of the products you're going to be buying. And, of course, here's what those goggles look like. I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, I can just see people around their house sitting around doing this, and it gives us another reason not to talk to our spouses and our kids. And I say that laughingly, but this is what you're going to see. This is where we're heading as a society, right? So, they look really cool. And I'll tell you right now, for me, I got to know, you're going to be, when I saw the price tag on these things, was I the only one going, I'm sorry, what? I know what Meta charges. I know there's another company has something like this, what they charge. But Apple, boy, they took it to the nth degree on this one. That's right, $34.99, not $3,500, $34.99, right? By the way, it's genius. I don't know if they're going to make money off the goggles themselves. I believe Meta loses money on theirs. But here's the genius thing. You know where they're going to make all their money at? Is always people going to run out who can't really afford this, but they got to be, keeping up with the Joneses. And they're going to put this on what? They're going to say, oh, here, get you an Apple Card, baby. Put it on there. Yeah, we'll give you a 0%, whatever, APR for 6 months, whatever it is. But this is where they're going to make their money, because so many people are going to buy this on that credit card. And if you don't know, if you read the fine print, they actually charge, like most credit cards, between like 13 and 24%. So they're going to be rolling in dough, because there's going to be many people, especially if the economy keeps slowing down and people start losing their jobs, that just aren't going to be able to make the real payments. They're going to start making those minimum payments, which is what Apple really wants them to do. And so, genius move by them to honestly charge so much. And so let me know in the comments if you're going to be getting some of these. Now, the stocks that helped was Disney. If you're a Disney shareholder, you're like, this is great, right? You got a bullish MACD cross, RSI is moving up off, almost being oversold. But what happened was they end up partnering, right? All of a sudden, the Disney CEO walks out on stage and people are like, wait a minute, what's he doing here? And so it helped Disney stock. So, and of course, they really needed it after been selling off so long here. Who else did it help? Unity Software. If you hold this stock up 18% today. Right now, understand, you can see how overstretched this thing is, but you may be thinking, man, this stock must be a great stock. Let me tell you something. This stock right here has been stuck in a range of like 24 to 48 for over a year. It's still in stage 1, trying to get in stage 2. So will this Apple partnership help out? That's what we'll have to find out if it finally kicks into stage 2. So keep that on your radar, right? Now, Intel shareholders were not happy. It sold off 5% today, because Apple uses their processors, and you can tell this is another one's been stuck in a range. It just cannot stay out of this range right here. It keeps just coming back every time, right? But they'll be using their own silicon for all their computers. They'll still use the processors, from my understanding, but it doesn't help Intel in their so-called turnaround. And guys, before we continue, if you're getting anything out of this, please hit that thumbs up down there. I really appreciate it. And if you like the material here and the videos, think about subscribing. Again, like I said, Apple is famous, and most companies for that matter. Tesla, they do the same thing where they sell off. It's a sell the news event, right? And so once they start talking about it and rolling all of this stuff, and those goggles, as far as I know, aren't coming out until next year, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but I swear it said next year. So let me know in the comments if you're picking them up, and are you putting it on your Apple Card? That's the big thing, right? So anyway, because 3,500, I was very surprised by that. Was I the only one that was shocked when they said they were going to be that much? But you know, now we're going to go real quick into some charts you need to see, and then we'll get into this whole the Treasury is going to be selling, you know, all these T-bills, and it's going to drain all the money out of the world and everything, and run the market down. What you see, though, before you get into that is, look, these markets are going to start getting into some tough times, right? As far as like they're both now, the SPY, I showed you the Qs. The SPY now is at the 618 Fibonacci level, retracement level from the low of October to the high, all-time high that is, right? So it's getting in that golden pocket again. So, and if you look to the left, I mean, it's going to start running into a lot more resistance and stuff, right? After a, big move up here, if you want to look at this. I also found it was interesting when I looked at the 200 moving average on the S&P, that it was moving up, and all of a sudden now it's flattened out, right? And so curious to look at that. And if we add the 50, you see the 50 is still turned up, obviously. It's the speedboat. And of course, the freighter, the way it moves and turns, is a 200, right? So I want to see what this does. It turns back up, stays flat, or actually starts to turn down if we do start to get a pullback, right? I'm looking for, if we do get a pullback, to come back down to that trend line right there it broke out of, that rising wedge, see if it makes that into support and everything. But again, it's getting stretched above the 200 now, not like Nvidia or any of the rest of them, because this is an index, and the Qs are much higher above their 200. But again, there's the Qs. What's it doing? Setting. It's actually got to the Fibonacci 618650. I use the golden pocket, and it's going above that. So it was the one that was slightly green today. The rest of them were red. You can see, but it's 200 is still turned up, right? Because everybody's buying tech, and these big stocks are, doing that. But again, it's going to start running to a lot more resistance, right? I mean, that's what's going to happen right here. So you could, to me, it would be nice to see a pullback in all these because it's healthy for it. Because that right there, look at that. Look how straight up that is. That's crazy, right? That's never good, and it always, it's either going to consolidate or pull back. Now, the rotation we talked about, everybody expected that to continue today. That did not continue. This sold off. The IWM was down almost 2% at one point in time. It fought its way back to about 1.05%. But again, we had talked about, looking at the daily here and saying, okay, it was overbought. MACD looked like it was going to roll over, and that's exactly what happened and stuff when you look at that. And so, again, it did close above 179. That's what a lot of bulls were looking at. It's okay, if we close above 179, we're good. If we go below 179, boom, we're heading right back down. Probably going to fill that gap and stay in that range. So keep a close eye on 179. Now, going into Google, we had talked about maybe a trend shift, start heading back down. It goes into that 125 heavy supply zone up there, as you can see, right above the 618. Having trouble getting through it. Looks like the MACD wants to roll over. Obviously, on the daily, you can see right here, we're still in overbought territory. If they can get through that 125, 126 area, at 135 is going to be the next move up. That's just the way it is. But unfortunately, that is a heavy, heavy supply zone for Google. Again, it did the big move up because why? AI, right? And so you see some stocks are starting to waver on that. Some people are taking profit and stuff because it's been such a fast move. Now, Tesla, another green day for Tesla today. As you can see, what I'm looking for is to see it get up to this trend line right here where it's been rejecting like 5 times. And that's only about 5% away. And so, Tesla can do that in a day easy. But that's what I'm looking for, to see if it gets up there. Don't be surprised, because right now people are still buying a lot of calls, but it's going to run to a lot of resistance, as you can see right there. So a lot of supply right there. And again, overbought. Look like the MACD's starting to get somewhat overstretched. Still a little room to run. So make sure you keep that in mind. It's not going to be a straight up shot here. There's going to be some pullbacks and everything else, especially if the market starts to pull back. And so we'll have to see, right? Because there's a lot of overhead resistance coming up for a lot of indexes, a lot of stocks, that kind of stuff. And so these big mega caps are, by far getting overstretched because they've been on such a big move. You see Nvidia right now just kind of trading sideways right now. A lot of people are taking profits, other people are stepping in. And so a lot of AI stocks are doing that because they've gone up so fast, 100, 200%, that people are profit taking, right? Why not? Take some off the table. And that leads us into, this whole debt ceiling getting approved and Janet Yellen having to refill the coffers, and the general account of the Treasury, she drained down like 30 billion, I think it was the low. And so the big fear is they're going to sell $1 trillion in treasuries, and people are going to sell their stocks, and they're going to roll into the bonds and the T-bills and all that good stuff. And the truth is, I think I always say the truth lies somewhere in the middle, right? So here's what I want you to think about. Obviously, this came from Bloomberg right here. Let's just talk through this. So over 100 billion on Tuesday and Wednesday, as per Bloomberg, are supposed to be sold, and then another reported nearly 600 billion will be sought within this month, supposedly, right? So an additional 800 billion in credit will be sold in the last 6 months of the year. And so what I want you to think about here is, one, could they go ahead and try to do $1 trillion? Sure, they could. But let's look back here at the general account of the Treasury, right? This goes back to 2011, and you can see before 2020, guys, the high was 400 billion, right? The average was 200 billion. Can we agree on that at least, right? And then we rocketed it up. For those who don't understand why we rocketed it up to almost 2 trillion, is because of all the checks and the COVID policies and the programs. You got to be able to pay for that stuff, right? So they rocketed it back up, and then of course you see it rocket down. Why? Because they sent all the money out to the companies and us and everything else, right? And then of course they refill it back up in 2022, and then she starts to sell it back down as this whole debt ceiling thing came around. Like, oh my goodness, and spin it all up, right? So when you really look at this, the fact, why do they have to go to $1 trillion? That's my big question. Are we doing any more COVID policies or anything? They don't have to go to $1 trillion. But even if they do, they're not just going to do $1 trillion in 1 month, right? And that's what even Bloomberg's report now. And so when you got to think about that in context first, right? And then what you got to think about this is, who is going to be the buyer of these bonds, T-bills, and everything that get rolled out here? Is it going to be us? Is it going to be, some of the financial institutions, or what? Who do you think is going to be the big buyer? And I would say banks, right? Financial institutions, of course, but look at all the deposits, right? These big banks, especially this is just all banks. The big banks have just more money than they know what to do with. But you can see before, even 2020, about 2 trillion, probably say that was the average or whatever, and then it bumped up after that. But just look, I mean, at one point in time, they were over 4 trillion. They're still sitting at like 3.3 trillion. They're parking this stuff in the repo program and everything because they don't know what to do with it. They don't want to lend it out because it's too risky, right? So why in the world wouldn't they just roll it into the bonds and T-bills instead of rolling it into the reverse repo program, right? Because they don't want to give it to us, And so if you're telling me is what my understanding when I study about this, and I could be wrong, but understand that I think a lot of the money for these bonds and T-bills, the reason why it's not going to affect liquidity because it's already out of the market, right? They're taking all this money, they're shipping it into the reverse repo program, and instead of putting it in there, why not just roll it into T-bills? Roll it into the bonds, lock it in there. Why not do that, right? And so basically, it's already out of the system. It's already out of the system. Doesn't affect liquidity, right? Now, is there going to be an effect on liquidity? Yeah, I think there's going to be an effect on liquidity for sure, right? But not as big as everybody's saying there's going to be. They have like just everybody, all this money that was in stocks, everybody's going to sell the stocks and just roll it into bonds. And you will definitely get, especially rich folks doing that for sure, no doubt in my mind about that. They'll definitely be piling in there probably, at some point in time. But then, will you have other people trying to, diversify the portfolios and everything? Sure. To some point, yeah, there's going to be an effect. But understand, I guess I don't panic about it like a lot of people do because I track it every day. Like literally, I post this Monday through Friday, market liquidity in the page run and in our Discord, right? I track this stuff, not just liquidity, which that chart you're seeing has, it's one of its 3 components is the general account for the Treasury. But I also do financial conditions. There's the Treasury account, like I talked about. Anything that changes in those 3 accounts, whether it's the reverse repo, the Treasury, or the Fed balance sheet, plus the financial conditions and other things, I'm already tracking every day. So it's not like it's a surprise. So I'll get to see well ahead of time, is it going to affect it? And so should it affect it? Yes. But there's other things, which I'll put in tomorrow's video, that I think are going to affect liquidity even more if it happens. And so I think that's another thing to keep in mind. And also the fact that, we're going into summer months. It's not like summer months have been, some crazy, rallying type markets or anything. It's the summer. So not really, and so, that combination, yes. Do I think liquidity is going to be affected? Yes. Do I think it's going to fall off a cliff and drop 30%? No. Do I think we could drop like 5 to 10%? Yeah. I mean, especially with the run we've had. Absolutely. Now, question is, if the SPY and the Qs sell off, right, does it roll into IWM, or is that money that's just rolling into, buying the bonds and the Treasury and things like that? Right? And so I'm thinking, well, it's that. Now, hey, if we drop 30%, trust me, I ain't gonna be unhappy about that. I got cash, I'll spend it, no problem. I think that's fine. But I just don't, I don't really see that, because the other reason is, look, let's be honest, how hard have you seen these people? I'm talking about the Treasury, the Fed, you name it, the government as a whole, do bend over backwards to make sure the market is not surprised and just gets caught off guard to sell off. I mean, seriously, they had, like, this meeting coming up, they have bent over backwards shipping those Fed presidents out there to say, probably not doing a rate hike, probably not doing a rate hike. I mean, every meeting, they don't want to shock anybody. We're doing a rate hike, we're doing a rate hike, and then Janet's running her mouth every day. Some of it's nonsense. But, they've bent over backwards to make sure that the market doesn't just crater. Right? When anything comes up, anything, it could be a black swan event comes up, they dive right in. You need money? Here it is, baby. And remember, we're going to start buying our own debt back next year. I mean, they're figuring out all kinds of ways to do it, which, by the way, probably in tomorrow's video too, I'll probably put something that really concerns me about where the U.S. is going. And it may upset some people, but it is what it is. But it's just really concerning to me. And anytime I see something like that, I'm going to voice my opinion. Don't matter if it's popular or not. It's just the way it's going to be. And I always bring facts to back my stuff up, not just some opinion. But, that's where I am on it. Let me know in the comments. I know it's a big popular subject, and people that are in the bear camp, they'll just pounce on me and say, oh, no, you're an idiot. This is what I'm going to do. People in the bull camp might say, well, that kind of makes sense. Who knows? And I'm just not in either camp. I don't like camps. So, I don't go to summer camps. I don't do any of those camps. So, that's just me. Now, so that's where we're at, obviously. Now, what I was going to share had nothing to do with the market, so you can click off if you're done with that, was, my son, he all of a sudden, his friend really wanted, for some reason, his favorite sport all of a sudden became boxing, which I was like, what? You ever seen a boxing match? No. But of course, is one of his best friends into it. He's going to get into it, right? And so, of course, in our area, we have nothing for boxing. There's something way downtown, and so, but that's it. That's way far. I'm not driving that far. It's crazy. But nothing around our area. It kind of sucks. There's no MMA gyms. There's no nothing, right? And so, it's okay. I'm a supporting father. Something you want to get into, because my son knows this. He's not athletic, right? He has no, the agility's not there. Speed, he just didn't. He didn't, get that. Whatever, for whatever reason, we don't know. We can't figure that one out. But his friends are the same way, by the way. And so, but hey, you want to get into jiu-jitsu, which he does. You want to get into this? I'll be more than happy to support you and stuff. So I built this thing right here. It took me about 4 hours, believe it or not, but. I call it my one-stop shop for boxing, right? You got your speed bag, you got your heavy bag to the right over there, and that thing in the middle, I don't even know what that is, to be honest with you. Got your storage bins and stuff. And so, of course, what am I doing now? I'm on YouTube trying to figure out how to teach somebody to box, because I don't box, never boxed in my life, but I got pads and everything I've had since he was in karate, trying to figure it out. And then how you do a speed bag. I'm trying to teach myself how to do a speed bag. So if you got any any kind of suggestions, feel free to put them in the comments. I've looked at video after video, and it's a lot tougher than it looks. Let me just tell you that right there. I mean, it is a lot tougher than it looks, but yeah, it's fun times, but at least I wanted to share that with you guys. I mean, and I like it. I mean, of course, I built a whole obstacle course up back because he got in the whole Ninja Warrior thing out too, but that's just how I roll and stuff. But just wanted to share that with you, and if you got any suggestions, let me know. I'll take them, because I'm learning myself. Again, I don't know how to box, but if my kid wants to get into it, nothing wrong with it. It's healthy, keeps him active. I'm more than willing to do it. That's kind of how I roll. So, anyway, hope you got something out of this, guys. Hit that like and subscribe button if you did. Appreciate all you guys watching videos and share them and stuff. It's always appreciated. Trust me on that. And I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Let's see if the IWM gets a little love tomorrow. Okay? Have a good one, guys.